Hey there, viewers. Our bodies are so unique. Despite being careful of our health, genetics and accidents can get the better of you. Decades ago, medical science was a little crude. However, today's surgeons have invented fascinating techniques to conquer life. Experimental surgeries have always stunned humankind. They go beyond lip fillers and facelifts. In today's video, we'll be looking at strange life-altering surgical procedures. Would you feel bizarre with two hearts in your body? Is it possible to live with just half of your brain? We're discussing all of that and more. Let's get started. Let's start with the toe-to-thumb surgery. Have you given serious thought to how often you use your thumbs? The thumb assists you in writing, buttoning your clothes, brushing, pulling a zipper, and scrolling on your phone. Go ahead and give it a closer look. You'll notice it moves differently than any of the other four fingers on your hand. An opposable thumb took millions of years to develop in humans. Most of your hand function would come to a standstill without this thumb. But what would happen if a fickle accident severs the king of the digits? Would it leave you incapacitated? Well, initially, yeah. But get this, doctors have found a way to replace your thumb with your toe. Sounds crazy, right? This is exactly what happened in the case of cobbler David Lee of Nottinghamshire, UK. David lost his thumb in a freak accident while trimming the heel of a shoe. The doctors at the Royal Derby Hospital Pulvertaft immediately tried to reattach the cut-off thumb, but they predicted it would fail in the long run. The next best thing they thought of was to replace it with David's toe. You see, the toe joint functions similarly to the thumb, and the chances of the body rejecting the new digit were minimal. A specialized team of doctors successfully joined the arteries, veins, nerves, and even the tendons of the big toe to the hand after a 10-hour-long surgery. David returned to work within 6 weeks. His skin sensation came back gradually, and his grip improved too. Today, he works efficiently at the same company where he lost his finger. This intuitive surgery definitely deserves a big thumbs up. Here's another story on unusual surgical procedures. Did you enjoy shooting hoops when you were 10? Well, what kid doesn't? In 2015, Chris Formaker, a 10-year-old basketball fanatic, developed mild swelling and pain in his knee at school. His parents assumed it was tendinitis or overexertion that matched his active lifestyle. But days later, Chris was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, a rare bone cancer. Conventional cancer treatment involves chemotherapy, radiation, and complete amputation. But the experts at Kaiser Permanente in Sacramento saw no improvements with these methods. That's when they found another treatment called rotationplasty. The procedure completely removes the tumor by amputating the knee's joints, thigh, and leg bones. It then gets replaced with the patient's foot and ankle, turning it 180 degrees. Chris's parents agreed, as it was their only option to save the little boy. The surgeons reattached the skin and the muscles of the ankle joints to the thigh during the surgery. Chris now had a backward-facing foot as high as the opposite knee. His new knee joint looked slightly different, but the prosthetic leg that slides over made things much more manageable. The intricate surgery gave Chris another chance to continue playing basketball. Hear what little Chris has to say about his life after surgery.
I can shoot, I can dribble around, I can do anything now that I could before I was diagnosed.
If you were squeamish about this, wait until you listen to the following surgical miracle. Remember the Time Lord Doctor Who and his two hearts? Science might have made this fictitious character a reality. There exists a person who has two hearts beating at the same time in their body. Mr. Tyson Smith, just 36, suffered from massive heart failure in 2011. His heart did not have enough strength to continue beating rhythmically. The apparent treatment that cardiac surgeons offered was a complete heart transplant. But the standard heart transplant was not possible. Mr. Smith already had pulmonary hypertension, which did not allow the smooth flow of blood to the lungs. This tricky situation forced the doctors at the University of California, San Diego Sulpicio Cardiovascular Center to take a bold surgical step that typically has a high success rate. They decided to go for a piggyback heart transplantation. The medical world recognizes this complex operation as heterotopic heart transplantation. The doctors decided to implant a donor heart right next to Mr. Smith's own heart. The only problem with this surgery was that it only has been successful in experimental animals. Nevertheless, they took the leap, which ended up increasing Mr. Smith's lifespan by 10 years. Believe it or not, 2 hearts are better than 1. Within a couple of weeks, Mr. Tyson Smith was headed home as the operation was a great success. What's more fitting? The surgery took place on Valentine's Day. Now, both the hearts share the cardiac load equally. Of course, there might be a few complications after a decade, but who knows? Science might surprise us again. Do you think it's possible to live with only half a brain? Our next story will answer that question. Your brain governs everything you do, from simple tasks like blinking your eyes, breathing, sleeping, and moving your body to complex problems like multitasking, analyzing situations, and even emotions. It contains 86 billion neurons that carry out these processes smoothly and is divided into 2 hemispheres, the right and the left, that control specific activities. Jessie Hall, a happy young girl, was diagnosed with Rasmussen's encephalitis at 6. The neurological disorder made her body shake for hours and sometimes even days. There was no positive effect on Jessie's condition even after taking medicines. Jessie started to have even more frequent life-threatening seizures. That's when Jessie's parents decided to travel from West Texas to Baltimore and Johns Hopkins Hospital to seek permanent treatment for their daughter. At the hospital, they met with world-renowned pediatric neurosurgeon Dr. Ben Carson. He suggested Jessie needed a higher level of surgical treatment called hemispherectomy. He was the pioneer for this procedure. This surgery is one of the most radical kinds of operation and involves removing half the brain responsible for these horrific seizures. This method also treats a few other conditions like Sturge-Weber-Demetri disease and strokes. Jessie's family understood the dangers and, despite being unsure of the success, went ahead with the surgery. Her seizures originated from the right hemisphere. The surprising thing about these hemispheres is that each hemisphere is responsible for the opposite side of the body. That means your right brain controls your left foot. Jessie's surgery lasted for around 10 hours, and her left side was immediately paralyzed. Dr. Ben Carson had already made the family aware of this side effect. Surprisingly, Jessie's seizures ended, and she started to recover. Children's brains are highly neuroplastic. They can rewire themselves and take over the functions of the lost part of the brain more rapidly than adults. Jessie's brain started making new connections, and with the help of physiotherapists, she healed quickly. It's been years, and Jessie is entirely seizure-free. She's just like any other ordinary kid. Dr. Ben Carson remembers her as someone whom he cannot forget. 12 years later, he congratulated her over Zoom when she graduated high school. Dr. Ben Carson spent his life operating on many such complex cases and took the medical world by storm. Countless people owed their lives to this genius. Filmmakers turned his life into a movie, Gifted Hands, where we can see him doing his pioneering surgery, the hemispherectomy, with a heart-touching storyline. Check out its link in the description box for a sneak peek. Last but not least, let's talk about the face transplant. Your face gives you a unique identity. It helps you express and carry out fundamental activities like eating, breathing, hearing, and seeing. What would happen if something distorted your face? Katie Stubblefield at 21 became the youngest recipient of a face transplant in the US. 17, she became the victim of a fatal gunshot injury. The doctors were able to save her life, but the horrific accident wrecked her face. It made her very self-conscious. She even spoke with tremendous difficulty. A month after the surgery, her parents took her to the Cleveland Clinic, where a bunch of plastic surgeons, anesthetists, and ICU experts started preparing for her face transplant surgery. Katie had waited for 4 years to find a suitable donor. Audria Schneider, a 31-year-old single mother who had recently died, caught the doctor's attention. She was a registered organ donor too. Katie and her family agreed to the surgery around May 2017. The doctors made a 3D model of Katie's sister's jaw to reconstruct Katie's face and nose. They chose her sister's face as they both shared a striking resemblance. The donor's face would eventually rest on that model. After a 31-hour-long exhausting surgery, Katie had a new face. Today, she is confident to step out in public without worrying about her looks. The accident drastically affected her vision, but she is slowly improving. All these incredible surgeries deserve a round of applause. Have you ever thought about changing something about your face? Maybe thinking of Botox? We got you covered. Check out 7 easy ways to get a slimmer face in 30 days, or 5 side effects of Botox injections you should be aware of. Go ahead, click one, or better yet, watch both and learn more. Did we miss any other surgical miracles? Let us know in the comments below.